Hello, students. I hope you all are doing fine. You're all safe and sound at home. And I'm also sure you're using this ample time that you're getting. Okay, today we are all set to begin our next chapter, which is the poem Circus Elephant, written by the poetess Catherine Worth. Now, Catherine Worth, although is not a very reputed name in the world of literature, yet she has mostly acclaimed recognition due to the volumes of poems that she has written especially for children. So you children will find her poems really interesting to read. Okay, now the slide that you can see here gives us a short introduction on the poetess. I've tried my best to find a picture of Catherine Worth for you to see. However, since there's no picture given in the Google, so I couldn't Google it out. Anyways, we get to know a few details about Catherine Worth in this particular slide. As you can see, she was born on 23rd August 1898 at North Carolina in United States of America. And she died on 20th January 1969 at South Carolina in United States of America. She received her education from Converse College in 1920. She graduated. She received her Bachelor of Letters from the Pulitzer School of Journalism, Columbia University in 1923. Next, I've given here names of a few notable books written by this particular author. These are Sign of Capricornus, published in 1937, The Middle Button, published in 1941, They Loved to Love, published in 1942, Poems for Josephine, published in 1943, New Worlds for Josie, published in 1944, and Sea Change, published in 1948. Okay, so these are a few very notable books written by Catherine Worth. After she had died, she was buried in the churchyard of Dials Church, South Carolina, United States. Now, in the next slide, you get to see the book covers of the few important or notable books that she had written, the ones that I've mentioned just now: New Worlds for Josie, Poems for Josephine, They Love to Love, Sign of Capricornus, Sea Change, The Middle Button. These are the few book covers for you to see. You might find these really interesting. Now, let us come to the poem, Circus Elephant. Now, from the title of the poem, Circus Elephant, can you make out what the poem could be about? Circus Elephant. Circus. Children, have you all been to a circus? Have you ever witnessed the various feats, the various skills which are being performed by human beings? Almost of all ages. There are little children performing, there are teenagers performing, there are young men and women performing. There are also animals performing. Have you seen animals performing in a circus? Yes, we have, isn't it? When I was a little child, I had seen a tiger performing before us. Definitely, he was a well-trained one. I also happened to witness an elephant performing before us, before the spectators. And then apart from these creatures, there were also dogs. There were various kinds of birds being trained to perform and entertain human beings. Now, probably this poem is about some elephant which is made to perform in a circus, and hence the title of the poem, Circus Elephant. Okay, now let me recite the poem for you. Look, recitation is very important in any poem, for any poem. You should know, you should learn how to recite a poem with the correct pronunciation, with the correct accent, and with correct stress and intonations. Listen to the way I recite this poem and recite the poem again and again at home. You'll find this a very interesting skill. I'm sure many of you recite poems in your mother tongue, don't you? Okay, let's begin. Circus Elephant. Does the elephant remember, in the grey light before dawn, old noises of the jungle in mornings long gone? Does the elephant remember the cry of hungry beasts, the tiger and the leopard, the lion at his feasts? Do his mighty eardrums listen for the thunder of the feet of the buffalo and zebra in the dark and dreadful heat? Does his majesty remember? Does he stir himself and dream of the long forgotten music of a long forgotten stream? Look, the poem ends with a very sad note, doesn't it? The poetess tells, does the elephant remember the long forgotten music? This evidently shows that the elephant is somewhere very far from his natural habitat. He's far from where he is supposed to be. He's far from his family, from nature. And so the poet asks, does he remember those long forgotten music of the forest, of this long forgotten stream? Okay. We just get a gist of, or an idea of what the poem could be about. The poem definitely is not a very happy one. It must be a sad one. However, I don't want to get into the explanation of the poem now because I have some very interesting slides for you to see. Although the slides may be interesting, but they're going to make you sad. Let's see how. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, what do we see here? We see here an elephant sitting, getting ready perhaps to perform some tricks before maybe a huge audience, and definitely he is a part of a circus, right? Now children, have you ever thought, do you think these animals really enjoy performing tricks before human beings? Do they feel happy while doing so, while doing these, various kind of feats? We may enjoy seeing them. We may enjoy performing, seeing them perform. We give a round of applause when we see these creatures perform. But do they really understand these, clappings or this loud thunder of applause? In reality, they don't. In fact, they don't enjoy at all performing tricks which they are not used to, which they are not habituated to at all, which they are not meant for. Isn't that very sad, children? Will we, if you think of yourselves in place of these creatures, they are speechless, they cannot express their sadness, they cannot argue and put forward their opinions about why they should perform here. They really find it difficult to defy the cruel human beings, the dictates of the cruel human beings. But as human beings, imagine yourself to be in the position of an elephant or any other creature. If we were asked to do these things against our wishes, would we be happy? Would we happily do things which we really don't want to do, things which are not meant for us? No, we don't, right? We don't enjoy. Similarly, these poor creatures also don't enjoy performing before human beings at all. Let's move on to the next slide, children. I want to give you details about how animals are being treated when they are made forcefully to be a part of a circus party. It's not only elephants who suffer in the circus. Tigers, lions, camels, dogs, monkeys, and there are many other animals who have to endure the rigors of transport, training, and performances too. Many animals, in fact, most animals used in circuses are bred in captivity. Do you think they move around freely? No, they don't. They're kept in cages behind bars in captivity, and they spend their entire lives in close contact with humans in an unnatural, stressful environment. Yes, this environment is unnatural for them because this is not their habitat. They are not supposed to be here. God has not made the civilized human society for creatures, for animals. They find themselves comfortable and happy amidst nature in the forest, in the jungle. Therefore, they don't enjoy this living. They are not happy. The entire environment for them is stressful and depressing. However, they have to obey to the commands of cruel human beings, don't they? Big cats like tigers, lions, they obey commands because they're afraid of being whipped. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that elephants are frequently beaten with heavy batons with a sharp metal hook on one end, sometimes until they bleed, in order to force them to perform dangerous, uncomfortable tricks, such as standing on their heads. They are chained. Look at the slide. Can you see how the elephant is being hauled and pulled against his wishes? Look how they are crammed in these places. See, here we see in this slide, we can see how an elephant is being forced to stand on his head. Can you imagine an elephant which is such a huge elephant with such huge size and such weight? Can he really stand on his head? Sometimes they're even meant to, forced and compelled to stand on a small pedestal, which is so unnatural. When not training or performing, these animals are kept chained, caged, not in spaces which are, not in a space which is enough for them to move. They cannot even take a step in any direction. While they are being hauled from, one place to another, from one venue to another venue, they are crammed into tractors. For days, they travel to far off distances. These trucks are usually cramped, filthy, sweltering, dirty, and so poorly ventilated that many creatures give up, their life. They die out of exhaustion and because of poor ventilation. Isn't that heart-rending, children? Can you empathize with them? Can you really feel the pain that these innocent creatures have to face, all because of mere entertainment provided by human beings? Just for the benefits of human beings, the so-called superior beings. These animals, they become despondent and depressed with time, and they develop abnormal behavior patterns, which include swaying, head bobbing, incessant pacing. They walk up and down incessantly without stopping. These are a few abnormal changes that can be cited in their behavior. Sometimes they even harm themselves in their frustration to escape from the clutches of human beings. They're denied everything, children, I tell you. They're denied everything that gives their lives meaning. The opportunity to run, the opportunity to be free amidst the nature, the opportunity to play, to socialize, to find their own living in their habitat, to fight for their own living in the habitat, they lose everything. Animals have snapped when they become overwhelmed by stress of circus life. Sometimes they become so overwhelmed because of this stressful life that they go on rampaging and causing property damage in the circus parties, even killing human beings. And they don't do it intentionally, let me tell you, children. We cannot blame them when they trample upon human beings in these circus parties. It is because they cannot take this kind of life anymore. There are even so many human deaths and injuries caused because of these actions of these creatures. But the creatures are helpless. These are all induced and provoked by human beings. And they often pay for this with their lives, let me tell you. Now, after hearing all these, do you feel that these creatures enjoy performing before us? No, they don't. I don't think so. They'll ever enjoy performing before us. They ever enjoy doing these tricks before us, although we enjoy seeing them. Now, this had been a burning issue since quite few years, and there have been many meetings and a lot of discussions on how this could be stopped. After all, not the entire humanity is the same, isn't it? There are people who really feel the pain of these animals and who have taken this initiative that no, this has to be stopped. In this slide you can see 27 countries have banned or restricted the use of animals in circus. Some of these are Austria, Bolivia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Macedonia, Malta, etc. You can read out all these names for your information. Use of big cats like tigers and lions has been banned by the Indian government as well. But the use of creatures like horses, hippos, elephants and dogs has not been restricted till now. In India, there are still circus parties using these creatures. So I really hope and I wish that the government will very soon take steps in favor of these creatures, and very soon we'll see these creatures no more used in circuses. There are many other skills and feats performed in the circuses, isn't it? We are going to enjoy those as well. Why use these poor creatures? See, children, I'm sure many of you had no idea of this, isn't it? Did you really have this idea of how the animals are treated, or the ill treatment which is meted out to these creatures? I'm sure you didn't. So now, when you have come to know this, you're supposed to be aware citizens, right? You are aware of what kind of treatment is extended to these creatures, and so as responsible kids, as responsible citizens, you should take a pledge that you would never visit a circus which uses animals, right? This is supposed to be a learning for all of us. When I was a child, even I enjoyed seeing this, but nobody explained ever to me what actually happened. But now that I have come to know this, I want you to know this as well. So you are not going to visit these kind of circuses which use animals, as aware citizens, as good human beings. Okay. So we stop here today. We shall continue with the explanation of the chapter in our next class. I am sure you have enjoyed this slide. You've got a lot of information and you will follow my instructions as well. Thank you, children. Bye bye. Stay safe.